Hi everyone, my name is Melissa. In this video I want to showcase two methods on how to create new records based on date fields. A member on the Enterprise DNA forum posted this question. With a date and a number of nights stayed, how can I create new records for each night a person stayed at a motel using Power Query? So let's go over the Power Query and find out. If you're familiar with date calculations in Excel, you'll probably know that each day can be translated to a whole number. And you can do that here as well. To get the numeric equivalent for each date, we can use the Number.From function. I'll reference my source query, right-click that, select Reference, and then via that mini table, add a custom column. Enter the function Number.From and point to the first actual column that contains our dates. Don't forget the closing parentheses and press OK. So here we see an integer representation for the date value. And because it's a number, we can add and subtract days. The goal is to create a date for each consecutive night stayed. If we examine the first record, that person stayed just a single night. We only have to return that first actual date value. Then for the second record, that person stayed 2 consecutive nights. We have to return both a value for the 13th and the 14th of December. And we can achieve that if we add the value that's in the nights column to the value that we have in our custom column, and then subtract 1, because we already passed that initial value. So let's go to the formula bar and expand on the logic we've created so far. Now I know I have to use that numeric value for the date twice, so I'll store that in a variable. I'll add the let expression, then add a name for my variable. I'll call that first night. And that equals this part, and then we can add the in clause. Now lists can be expanded to new rows. With a set of list initializers, that's those curly brackets, we can create a list with dates. We're going to start from our first night variable up to, again, the first night variable plus whatever is in our number of nights with a set of square brackets. Point to the nights column and then subtract 1. I'll press OK. And we now have a list. So when I click off to the side in the white space here, we can see the contents of that nested list down below in that second preview pane. And here we have a single value. And when I click off to the side in the white space of the second record, I now have 2 values, so that's looking good. With these sideward arrows, we can expand to new rows. And here I can set the data type. I want to turn that into a date. For the first record, we're returning that same value that's in the first actual, and then for that second record, that's these two, we have one record for the 13th and one for the 14th of December. So this is method number 1. Now for the second method, we can use an M function called List.Dates. Again, I'll reference my source query, so I'll right-click that, select Reference, and again with that mini table icon here, add a custom column. Here I'll add that function List.Dates. Opening parentheses, and first it wants a start value as a date. That's in our first actual column that contains our date values. Select that, comma. then a count as a number. How many dates do you want to return in that list? And we can see that that is in the nights column. So I'll pause that, comma, and then step as duration. Think of that as an interval. Now we're looking for consecutive nights, so we want a continuous list of dates. And a single day has a numeric equivalent of 1. Here I'll enter duration from 1. Don't forget the closing parentheses and press OK. Again, we have a nested list, and when I click off to the side in the white space of the first record, we can see the content of that nested list down below. For the first record, I have just one value. And for the second record, I have the 13th and the 14th of December. Excellent! So again, we can expand that to new rows and set the appropriate data type to date. Now there are some things that I need to point out, and for that I'll duplicate my last query. So I'll right click that, and this time I'll select duplicate. The first thing that I want to point out is that that first parameter in the List.Date function requires a date data type. If I step to my source tab and change this data type into a date time, I'll insert that step. I now have a datetime data type, and when I step to my next step, that returns an error. And that's because it's not passing a date. So when I click off to the side here, we see that type mismatch error. We can't convert the value of datetime to a type date. And we can easily fix that. So here in the formula bar, we can add Date.From. And press OK. So we've resolved that error, and we now get values back again. And the next thing I wanted to point out is that you can also create an alternating list of dates. All you need to do is change that final step parameter into a 2, for example. So here, change that 1 into a 2. And when we now check the content of that first record, nothing changed. We still have that initial value. But here we're passing 2 values in that second record. So when I click off to the side here, you now see we have the 13th and the 15th of December. So I've demonstrated 2 ways of creating new records based on date fields. The first by generating a list of dates using the list initializers, and the second by using the function List.Dates. Thank you so much for watching. All the best.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Enterprise DNA TV. If you enjoyed the content covered in this particular tutorial, please throw the video a like. It really helps us and we really appreciate it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Enterprise DNA TV channel. We have a huge amount of content coming out all the time from myself and a range of content creators, all dedicated to improving the way that you use Power BI and the Power Platform. Lastly, check out Enterprise DNA's website. Plenty of resources and further learning that you can access very easily. All the best. Take care.